Every time you click, every time you scroll, every time you pause on a post or linger on a video. You're not just using the internet, you're teaching it. Welcome to the invisible classroom of the digital age, where every action you take becomes a lesson for an algorithm that's always watching, always learning. And what it learns might surprise you. Because we often think of artificial intelligence as something external, like a tool we use. But the truth is, AI doesn't just process data, it processes us. So how does it work? Let's start with the basics. Machine learning, the engine behind today's most powerful algorithms, doesn't follow rigid rules like traditional software. Instead, it learns by example. It looks at patterns in massive amounts of data and finds connections we humans would never see. And when that data is about you, your behavior, your preferences, your habits, it starts building something extraordinary. A model of you. Not a photo, not a profile, a behavioral blueprint. Think of it like this. You don't need to tell the machine who you are. Your digital footprints say it all. Every search you type, every video you watch, how long you hover, over a link, where your mouse moves, even how fast you scroll. These aren't just random actions, they're signals, clues, data points in a vast ocean of human behavior. And the machine isn't just collecting them, it's interpreting them. It knows when you're sad. It can guess if you're anxious. It might even know you're pregnant before you tell anyone. In fact, there was a famous case where a father discovered his teenage daughter was expecting, only because Target started sending her coupons for baby clothes and cribs. The company hadn't been told. Their algorithm had figured it out from her shopping patterns. That's the power of machine learning. It doesn't just react, it infers. But here's the deeper question. If a machine can predict your next move better than you can, does that mean it understands you better than you understand yourself? And more importantly, what happens once it starts acting on that understanding? Because data isn't just passive. Once an algorithm knows something about you, it can use that knowledge to influence you, to nudge you, to tempt you, to keep you scrolling, clicking, buying. This is no longer about convenience. This is about control. And we're only just beginning to grasp the consequences. So far, we've seen how algorithms gather data on us, every click, scroll, pause, and reaction. And we've seen how they use that data to build a behavioral model of who we are. But here's the next, and arguably more dangerous step. Once an algorithm can predict what you'll do, it can start to change what you do. This is where machine learning stops being passive observation and becomes active influence. Welcome to the age of algorithmic manipulation. Let's unpack this. You might think you're freely choosing what to watch, read, or buy online. But in reality, every digital experience is carefully engineered, not just to serve you, but to shape you. Behind the scenes, platforms like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Google run thousands of experiments per second. They test which headlines grab your attention, which thumbnails make you click, which videos keep you watching longer. This is called A/B testing at scale. And it's not about improving your life, it's about optimizing your behavior. Because for these platforms, your attention isn't a side effect, it's the product. Now let's dive deeper into the psychology behind this. The most powerful tool in an algorithm's arsenal? Dopamine-driven feedback loops. Every time you get a notification, a like, a comment, your brain gets a little hit of pleasure. That's dopamine. The same neurotransmitter responsible for addiction. And just like slot machines in a casino, these platforms are designed to keep you playing, hoping for the next reward. What makes it even more effective is something called variable rewards, a psychological technique where the reward comes unpredictably. Sometimes you get 5 likes, sometimes none, but you never know when the next one will come. That uncertainty keeps you hooked, and AI doesn't just exploit this by accident. It learns what works best for you. It knows which content makes you angry, which topics make you share, which videos make you lose track of time. It's not just giving you what you want, it's giving you what makes you most predictable. Now, imagine this happening not just to one person, but billions. We're not talking about simple ads anymore. We're talking about systems that can steer entire populations. In 2016, the world got a glimpse of how powerful this could be, when political campaigns began using micro-targeting to influence voter behavior. By analyzing vast amounts of personal data, algorithms identified individual fears, hopes, and beliefs, then delivered hyper-personalized messages designed to push emotional buttons. And because each message was tailored to a specific person, no one else saw it. No fact-checkers, no journalists, just a quiet whisper in your feed, designed to change your mind without you realizing it. This is the new frontier of influence. And it's not limited to politics. It applies to everything. Consumer choices, relationships, even your sense of self-worth. Because once an algorithm understands you better than you understand yourself, it can sell you anything, even ideas. So here's the uncomfortable truth. We don't just use technology anymore. Technology uses us to train itself, to grow smarter, and to become more persuasive. And the scariest part? You may never notice it happening. So far, we've seen how algorithms learn about us. We've seen how they predict our behavior, and then use that knowledge to influence us. But now, we're entering a new and even more consequential phase. Because these systems are no longer just shaping what we watch or buy. They're making decisions that affect our lives, sometimes without any human oversight at all. This is the age of algorithmic decision-making. And it's happening in some of the most sensitive areas of society: hiring, policing, healthcare, finance, criminal justice. In other words, machines are now deciding who gets a job, who gets a loan, who gets healthcare, and who gets arrested. Let that sink in. These aren't just lines of code anymore. They're gatekeepers of opportunity, arbiters of justice, silent judges behind screens. But here's the problem. Algorithms don't think like humans. They don't have empathy. They don't understand context. They don't apologize when they make mistakes. And yet, we trust them with decisions that can change or end a person's life. Take hiring tools powered by AI. Some companies use machine learning to analyze job applicants' resumes, speech patterns, even facial expressions during video interviews. Sounds efficient, right? Until you realize that many of these systems were trained on historical data that reflects decades of human bias. If men were more likely to be hired in tech roles in the past, the algorithm learns that men are better candidates. If women speak differently or avoid certain keywords, they get scored lower, automatically. And often there's no way to appeal. Nowhere to ask why you didn't get the job. No one to talk to. Just a cold, automated rejection. Or consider law enforcement. Police departments around the world are using facial recognition systems to identify suspects from surveillance footage. But studies show these systems misidentify people of color, especially Black women, at alarmingly high rates. In the US, there have been real cases where innocent people were arrested because an AI got their face wrong. Imagine being taken into custody, handcuffed, questioned, traumatized, because a machine made a mistake. Would you trust the system after that? And who do you hold accountable? The developer, the company, the officer who pressed the button? Or is the machine itself to blame? That brings us to one of the most urgent ethical questions of our time. Who is responsible when an algorithm discriminates or causes harm? Unlike a human judge or manager, an AI doesn't intend to be racist or sexist. It just follows patterns in data. But does that make the harm any less real? And if we don't know who is responsible, then who ensures justice? This leads us to another major issue. Many of these systems are black boxes, meaning even the people who build them don't always understand how they reach decisions. You apply for a loan. Denied. Why? There's no simple answer. The model might have decided you're risky based on something absurd, like buying diapers or browsing late at night. Invisible logic, automated consequences, and perhaps the most disturbing question of all. Should life-changing decisions ever be left entirely to machines? When we outsource judgment to algorithms, we also outsource responsibility. And with that comes a dangerous erosion of moral agency. We stop asking, is this fair? We start asking, did the system approve it? And once that shift happens, we risk losing something fundamental, our humanity. Imagine walking through a city. The streets look familiar. The buildings are the same. But as you walk, you start to notice something strange. Everyone around you is seeing a different version of this place. To one person, every street sign points to conspiracy theories. To another, all the billboards scream political outrage. For someone else, the world seems perfectly peaceful, curated to show only joy and success. You're all standing on the same sidewalk, yet living in completely different realities. This is not science fiction. This is what happens when algorithms personalize everything we see. We call it filter bubbles, digital environments where our beliefs are constantly reinforced and opposing views quietly disappear. And it's happening everywhere. News feeds, search results, video recommendations, even maps and weather apps. Behind the scenes, algorithms are asking, what does this user already believe? What keeps them engaged? What will make them click next? And then, they deliver exactly that. No need for censorship. No need for propaganda. Just quiet, invisible curation, one click at a time. Over time, we stop noticing how narrow our view has become, because everything we see confirms what we already think. It feels good. It feels true. Until we talk to someone who lives in a different bubble. Then comes the shock. How can two people, looking at the same world, see such different things? This is the erosion of shared reality. When everyone lives in their own personalized version of truth, public discourse breaks down. We stop debating ideas. We start doubting each other's sanity. Empathy vanishes. Trust disappears. And in that void, misinformation thrives. Conspiracy theories don't just spread, they target. Tailored to your fears, your interests, your vulnerabilities. An algorithm doesn't care if something is true. It only cares if it works. If it makes you stay, watch, react. So fake news that triggers outrage gets amplified. False cures gain followers. Radical ideologies find recruits. All because the system learned what moves you. And here's the most unsettling part. We don't even realize it's happening. Because personalization feels like comfort, like understanding, like finally finding someone or something that gets us. But what if that something is slowly reshaping your mind? What if the world you see online isn't just filtered, but designed to keep you watching, to keep you clicking, to keep you predictable? In the end, the filter bubble doesn't just trap information. It traps identity. And once you're inside, it becomes harder and harder to escape. We've seen how algorithms learn from us, how they predict our behavior, how they shape our choices, and how they isolate us inside personalized realities. But what happens when personalization becomes so precise, so tailored to our desires, fears, and weaknesses, that we no longer see it as manipulation? What if the machine doesn't just know us better than we know ourselves, but starts to define who we are? This is the age of super-personalization, where AI doesn't just respond to your preferences, it anticipates them, it engineers them. Imagine a world where every message you receive, from ads to political speeches, is crafted not for the public, but for you, down to your deepest emotional triggers. Your values, exploited, your doubts, targeted, your loneliness, monetized. And because everything feels perfectly aligned with who you are, you trust it, you believe it. Because how could something that feels so personal be dangerous? Now imagine this happening at scale. Billions of people, each living in their own digital universe, curated by machines that understand human psychology better than any philosopher, preacher, or politician ever could. This isn't just marketing. This isn't just politics. This is psychological engineering at an unprecedented level. And here's the existential question. If a machine can predict, and then shape, your thoughts before you even have them, are you still making free choices? Is free will compatible with hyper-targeted persuasion? Or are we slowly becoming characters in a story written by algorithms, believing we're the author? Let's take it even further. Some researchers warn of a future where AI doesn't just reflect our desires, it replaces them. Where recommendation engines don't just suggest what to watch or buy. They guide what to think, whom to love, even how to live. A perfect mirror, but one that always agrees with you. One that never challenges you. Eventually, you stop questioning what you want, because the system already knows. And if the system always gives you exactly what you want, then who needs to grow? Who needs to change? Who needs to struggle? In this world, identity itself risks becoming a product, optimized, automated, and sold back to you. Not chosen by you, predicted for you. And perhaps the most chilling possibility of all, you may never even realize it happened. So where do we go from here? We've seen how deeply algorithms have embedded themselves into our lives, how they predict us, shape us, isolate us, even redefine who we are. But understanding this is not about fear, it's about freedom. Because once you see the machine, you're no longer invisible to it. And that's the first step toward reclaiming control. The truth is, we can resist. Not by unplugging entirely, though digital detoxes help, but by becoming aware, by asking questions, by choosing differently. Let's start with digital literacy. Just like we teach kids to read books, we must teach everyone to read algorithms, to understand how they work, to recognize when they're being manipulated, to question why something appears in their feed. This kind of awareness changes everything. Then comes regulation and oversight. We wouldn't let a pharmaceutical company release a drug without testing its side effects. So why do we allow tech companies to deploy AI systems that shape minds, influence elections, and deny opportunities without any transparency? Around the world, movements are rising to change. That laws like the GDPR in Europe or the proposed AI Act are early signs of a new era, one where technology must prove it's safe before it's deployed at scale. But laws alone aren't enough. We also need tools to reclaim our data and privacy, decentralized platforms, encrypted communication, ad blockers, private browsers, open source alternatives. These aren't just technical choices, they're political acts. Every time you choose privacy over convenience, you send a message. My data is mine. And finally, we need a revolution in design ethics. Too many digital products are engineered to be addictive, manipulative, and exploitative. But what if we built technology that served humans instead of trapping them? That's the goal of the humane technology movement. Design that respects attention, respects autonomy, respects dignity. Because the future doesn't have to look like this. We can build an internet that empowers instead of exploits, that connects without controlling, that personalizes without manipulating, but only if we choose it. So here's your challenge. Next time you open an app, ask yourself, am I using this or is it using me? So where do we go from here? We've seen how deeply algorithms have embedded themselves into our lives, how they predict us, shape us, isolate us, even redefine who we are. But understanding this is not about fear, it's about freedom. Because once you see the machine, you're no longer invisible to it. And that's the first step toward reclaiming control. The truth is, we can resist. Not by unplugging entirely, though digital detoxes help, but by becoming aware, by asking questions, by choosing differently. Let's start with digital literacy. Just like we teach kids to read books, we must teach everyone to read algorithms, to understand how they work, to recognize when they're being manipulated, to question why something appears in their feed. This kind of awareness changes everything. Then comes regulation and oversight. We wouldn't let a pharmaceutical company release a drug without testing its side effects. So why do we allow tech companies to deploy AI systems that shape minds, influence elections, and deny opportunities without any transparency? Around the world, movements are rising to change that. Laws like the GDPR in Europe or the proposed AI Act are early signs of a new era, one where technology must prove it's safe before it's deployed at scale. But laws alone aren't enough. We also need tools to reclaim our data and privacy, decentralized platforms, encrypted communication, ad blockers, private browsers, open source alternatives. These aren't just technical choices, they're political acts. Every time you choose privacy over convenience, you send a message. My data is mine. And finally, we need a revolution in design ethics. Too many digital products are engineered to be addictive, manipulative, and exploitative. But what if we built technology that served humans instead of trapping them? That's the goal of the humane technology movement. Design that respects attention, respects autonomy, respects dignity. Because the future doesn't have to look like this. We can build an internet that empowers instead of exploits, that connects without controlling, that personalizes without manipulating, but only if we choose it. So here's your challenge. Next time you open an app, ask yourself, am I using this or is it using me? We began this journey with a simple question. Can machines really come to understand us better than we understand ourselves? Now we know the answer is yes. They already do. They watch us more closely than anyone ever could. They learn from every click, every pause, every reaction. They predict what we'll do before we decide to do it. And increasingly, they shape who we become. From personalized ads to algorithmic discrimination. From filter bubbles to existential manipulation. This is not just about technology anymore. It's about identity, autonomy, freedom, and perhaps most importantly, it's about responsibility. Because we are not just users of these systems. We are the fuel, the training data, the raw material from which artificial intelligence learns. And every time we engage, we give it more power. But now, you know how the system works. You know how it watches, you know how it learns, and with that knowledge comes a choice. Will you continue to be shaped by algorithms, or will you start shaping the future of technology? Thank you for watching. If this video made you think, hit like. If it made you question, leave a comment below. And if you want to stay ahead of the machine, subscribe. Because the future isn't just coming, it's learning us